I'll give it about 1 more minute before we get started. Okay, so I think we can get started. I think we have reached a quorum. We have 100 participants. Andre, can you go ahead and mute everybody, please?
Hello.
Yes, hello, Andrew.
Hello.
Good morning, Ori.
Hello.
Hi, Abera. Good morning. Andre, are you there? Can you please mute the participants?
He muted himself.
Hello. Okay, Ori, let me get back to him. I think he's not online at the moment. But participants, you can just please take the kind gesture of muting yourself, mute your microphone so that you can proceed while I get in touch with Andre.
Sure. Okay, well then we can go ahead and get started. Thank you, Edwin. Good morning, everybody. My name is Ori Pratt. I'm an agriculture officer at the FAO sub-regional office for Eastern Africa, based in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia. We cover 9 countries across Eastern Africa, and I want to welcome you to the webinar this morning. Today's webinar is focusing on running farmer field schools and field-based activities in times of COVID-19. This is organized between the African Forum for Agriculture Advisory Services, AFAS, based in Kampala, their Eastern Africa Farmer Field School Hub, as well as the Global Farmer Field School Platform, which is based in Rome. This is from the FAO Plant Production and Protection Division. It is also co-organized with the Resilient Food Systems Program. So first, I want to thank everybody for taking time out of their schedule to attend today's webinar. I want to thank the speakers, the presenters, the behind-the-scenes crew to organize this in such a short time, and all of the participants, like I said, for taking their valuable time to attend this webinar. We expect to keep it as concise as possible, around a little over 1 hour, but we'll let the discussion run for as long as need be. So some general housekeeping items that I would like to inform you. If you could please, each participant, if you could kindly mute your microphones, that way we have clear audio of all of the speakers and the presenters. As you'll note, there is a chat box at the very bottom that you can go ahead and type your questions or any sort of comments. So first, if you haven't already, please go ahead and introduce yourself in the chat box. I will be moderating this webinar and I will be reviewing the chat box constantly to raise any sort of questions you may have. We also would ask you that you turn off your video. For those that have low bandwidth, they can be able to hear the audio properly. You can go ahead and ask questions during the presentation at any time, but we will save the question and answer session until after all of the speakers have presented. We have many languages presented here, so if English is not your first language and you feel that you want to address something in your own language, feel free to do so. We ask that the speakers limit the repetition, as we understand that there are a lot of similar circumstances going on during COVID-19. So if something has been said, then we ask you to not repeat that. So with that being said, first I would like to invite our village elder in Farmer Field Schools, our colleague Max Olupat, who is a Partnerships, Planning and Learning Officer with the African Forum for Agricultural Advisory Services in Kampala. So Max, if you would like, I'll give you 3 minutes to provide your welcome remarks. Thank you. Over to you.
Thank you, Ori, and thank you for the honor as the village leader in the field school. We are very grateful, first of all, to FAO headquarters and all the teams that supported us to put this webinar together. As Ori has already introduced me, my name is Max Olupot. I work for African Forum for Agriculture Advisory Services, AFAS, as Partnerships, Planning and Learning Specialist. And I'm also the East Africa Field School Hub Coordinator. And the East African Field School Hub is currently hosted at AFAS. So briefly, I would like to say we from the Field School, East Africa Field School Hub are honored to have jointly organized this webinar together with the FAO headquarters and the regional offices. The East African Field School Hub is an initiative which started in 2016. This was under the project funded by SDC in institutionalization of field schools in East Africa. And because of the role that AFAS plays in the continental arena in terms of championing extension and advisory services, the hub then was transitioned and it is now hosted by AFAS, and we are honored for that. We are now nurturing this. And again, we would like to say the hub has so far done a lot of things in terms of engaging with the stakeholders of recently in the times of COVID. We've been holding a number of webinars, but most importantly, a webinar which was focused on how we can operate as Farmer Field School fraternity during the COVID. And this was well attended by some of you who especially come from East Africa. We also had a chance to talk about how children are now operating, how they are coping up, adapting at home. And this webinar focused so much on how we can continue to support our children in the while they're at home, but using the field school approach. So today's webinar is a follow-up of such a webinar, but this is more global. This is a global webinar where we shall be talking so much about the running of field schools during the COVID. And I'm also happy that we, as the hub, the East African Field School Hub, contributed to the development of this handbook. So we shall be listening more to our colleagues who led the development of this handbook. And indeed, I would like to say again that this is an opportunity where we as field school fraternity will continue to share information and knowledge about the field schools and again support each other. Despite the situation we are living in, the field schools are continuing. Yesterday I was deep in the villages and I was talking to a master trainer who said, we are still working with the farmers, but observing all the government regulations and standards on COVID. So again, welcome, and we are delighted that we are going to have this webinar. Thank you, Ori.
Thank you so much, Max. Just some clarification on things. This webinar will be conducted in English. There's no translation in French. I was just wanted to say that if you prefer to ask your questions in a different language, then feel free. I also note we unfortunately only have a license for 100 participants and we have maxed out. I'm seeing in different areas that people are trying to access. If you are contacted on how to get in, please inform your colleagues that unfortunately we only have the access for 100, but this is being recorded. So we are happy to share the recorded version with those who are not able to make it in the live session. We will certainly work for the next webinars that are co-organized to have a greater capacity. So sorry for that unforeseen circumstance. Now I would like to turn it over to Anne-Sophie Poisseau. She is the project coordinator for the Farmer Field School, the Global Farmer Field School Initiative in Rome, Italy. She's going to talk about her experience of developing all of these wonderful resources. She's got a great presentation. So Anne-Sophie, if you can share with us within 10 minutes your experience, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Ori. It's great to see all of you. I think I'm managing to share my screen. Is this working? Can you confirm it's okay?
Yes.
Is it working?
Okay.
Yeah, perfect. Okay. So I am Anne-Sophie Poisseau from the Global Farmer Field School platform at FAO. It's great to see so many friends, and great that we could co-organize this with FFS and the East Africa Farmer Field School Hub and the FAO regional office in East Africa. So since the pandemic started, we've been backstopping a lot of countries and on advisory services and farmer field schools on how to adjust to the circumstances. This is a photo from Senegal from an NGO called Development in Gardening, which is a partner of the Global FFS platform, who's been using the material for campaigns on COVID-19. And what we've seen as FAO overall on the broader picture is a lot of intermittent, although widespread malfunctioning in food supply chains. The movement restrictions have prevented transport of people, of perishables, and including creating labor shortages. We've seen also a lot of changing location and demand. So markets being closed and inputs often being unavailable. And predictions are that up to 500 million people more, the numbers of the poor might increase by 500 million people, and the number of the food insecure globally might increase by over 180 million. So that's really a significant challenge and crisis. And what we saw that farmers were looking for most at the beginning was how to solve specific production problems with their crops or with their animals. Due to reduced physical access to advisory services. Very quickly, marketing issues came in, and the main questions and information farmers were looking for around the world where to sell, what to sell, how much, how can I organize transport, what permissions are needed, when do I get in. So the response from advisory and services and farmer field schools has been, first of all, to help health services raise awareness on the protective measures, on what is COVID-19, but also keep advocating policy solutions and practical solutions for farmers' challenges, and try to innovate to provide technical advice despite distancing. So we've seen a rise of use of instant messaging, WhatsApp and WeChat and others, e-learning, phone calls, video use, etc. But field schools and extension services have also helped in a lot of cases, supporting partnerships with market linkages to overcome supply chain challenges. And we'll come back to that later, and also address social tensions during the pandemic. So some key considerations when running advisory training activities, etc. Of course, agriculture trainings can result in spreading the virus as group trainings, or they can be an opportunity to sensitize people if we follow all recommendations. So it's important, it's critical that, of course, project managers, field staff strictly follow guidance from government in deciding whether training can be held and how they can be held. And if any participant feels unwell or the trainer, the facilitator, the priority is the duty of care. Do not participate in training, cancel the trainings, and make sure you're protecting others. Simple measures that need to be implemented in every training. I think they are well known by now. This kind of educational material is available from FAO free of charge. If you want to translate in your local language, drop us an email. My colleague Zoe will be putting all of these links to these material in the chat, and we're happy to provide them free of charge for you to, the source files for you to change and translate and adapt. So how to decide whether to hold your training and how to adjust. So from the field experience we've had, it depends on the field situation, on the COVID situation. If your country's in lockdown, of course you need to postpone all FFS activities, any field training, and then the host farmers, use the host farmers of the field school plot to manage the plot while you cannot meet with the full group or to manage the herd. And do keep in touch with your FFS members and farming communities through your WhatsApp groups or your online other tools, phones, and share the learning and the situation of the field plot. If, however, your country at this point has some restrictive measures, but meetings are allowed, you nonetheless may consider canceling or postponing some FFS sessions, defer graduation of FFS or any trainings, defer open field days and to a later stage. You might also reduce the number of field school participants, even though meetings might be allowed. In some countries, the field staff has reduced the field school group to 4 or 5 lead farmers, and each of them was tasked to then relay the information or replicate activities in another site with another 4 or 5. So instead of meeting with the bigger farmer field school group of 20-25, they had sort of mini FFS. And then you could use your videos if people have smartphone or phone calls to share the learning with a broader group while people are in the field, and to relay what's happening in the field school plot. But also, of course, any training should strictly implement the basic protective measures, maintain social distancing during agro-ecosystem analysis and any field work, wash hands, etc. And use the field schools to raise community awareness. If your country has no restrictive measures or literal restrictions, but there are concerns anyway, you might still keep on the conservative side, and any meeting should strictly implement basic protective measures. So we've put this material together. This is this handbook that Max was referring to, running farmer field schools in times of COVID-19. This is a handbook for facilitators, field trainers, extension workers. It's not limited to field schools only. It can be used by any trainer, field trainer. It is available in a number of languages, and more are coming. If you want to translate this, or the posters that you see, which was a partnership with FAO Angola, who initially designed this, let us know. We can send the source files, and happy that you use this to translate in any local language. Lots of material can be found on the Global FFS platform. You see the name up on the screen, and Zoe will link that also in the chat. We have lots of material on the Global FFS platform that is also not about COVID, but about anything from livestock field schools to aquaculture field schools to fall armyworm and IPM and many other topics. So in this blue book, this blue handbook, we have put together a suggested list of activities that you can use during your field trainings, starting with question and answers about the virus and precautionary measures, but also how to make soap and sanitizer, how to clean the house. Should we worry about our animals? What to do if you have a case in the community that is a suspected case of COVID-19, etc. So I'll go maybe in depth in explaining a few activities. So one could be demonstrating how viruses are spread. So for this, you could take a plate of flour, basically, and a volunteer will pretend to sneeze. Of course, he or she won't sneeze in real life, not to spread the virus, but we'll pretend to sneeze and actually fan this flower with a cardboard really hard, and it will end up everywhere. I'm tempted to do this, but I will spare my computer the risk. So, and this flower will end up everywhere, and you debrief with participant when you sneeze or cough or spit or blow, this is what happens. The virus will spread into droplets just like this flower did, and you can observe it's everywhere. So this, how do we protect ourselves? And then you get into a discussion about precaution measures. Role plays. Also, mini groups can do role plays about pretending to go to prayer or go shopping, go to the bank or the market. What precaution measures should we adopt? It's about changing behavior. So the more you practice and people actually do it, the more it will be effective. And then the group can observe where precautions followed, what can be improved, etc. So very practical things. Also remember, when doing training, if you're using icebreakers or games or group dynamics, remember to avoid physical contact. This is something we do a lot normally in farmer field schools and participatory training to break down barriers and create positive group dynamics. But you have to come up with, for instance, the best song and dance, on protective measures, or how to do creative greetings, or come back to traditional greetings that don't involve touching, etc. And other activities that we have in the guide is how to do masks based on local material. This is based on WHO guidelines with locally available material. Also, activities on discussing gender impacts of COVID-19. We've seen that gender-based violence and sexual violence has increased in a lot of countries during lockdown. People don't have their usual coping mechanisms and have been staying together in the house. This is typical of public health emergency. This has happened also during Ebola. The impact on health and food security of public health emergencies is typically much stronger on girls and women. So this is something that as a facilitator of field school, you might want to keep your eye on, remaining tactful, but keep an eye on what's happening in the community and seek help from professionals in this field if needed. Of course, ICTs has been permeating everybody's life since the beginning of the pandemic. Field schools can be a way, and your groups can be a way to bridge the ICT with people's empowerment. And there's many forms of fields of ICTs that you can use and digital tools, but also video sharing platforms like Access Agriculture, Digital Green, YouTube, and others. And that's really can relay and complement very usefully the field trainings and the practical hands-on trainings. So another, last but not least, very important aspect is that you'll feel schools now, the rains have come in a lot of countries in the global south, lots of field schools activities are being considered or will start. It's really important to use that to help protect livelihoods and restore livelihoods. Field schools have been used for seed production or to produce botanicals, biopesticides, or biostimulants, as we're doing in FFS in India. But also field schools in many countries are a springboard, jumping board for income generating activities or small businesses or collective marketing or organizing transport. Also linkages with community savings and loans initiatives, social protection, insurance schemes. So the field schools has always had an aim at facilitating collective action and going beyond the technical training. And in this moment, this is even more critical than it has ever been. So COVID-19, what a bit of the take home is that it may be an opportunity, or at least it's maybe a turning point for advisory services. The scenario of digitalization has evolved even faster than it had. So will advisory services evolve fast enough, or will they be left behind? But in all that, in the digitalization, we need maybe empowerment of farmers as well as empowerment. We need to promote digital tools that will be responding to the needs of farmers, and that farmers and rural communities can own, knowing that, of course, we don't want to increase the digital divide, so you need to be aware as field schools and actors and development actors of how the use of digital tools in projects may leave some people behind. So keeping an eye on the most vulnerable, and including women, who often have less access than men. So all that requires developing new skill set, and we need partnership for this. We need to use networks and blend tools, rural radio together with Dimitra clubs, together with farmer field schools, together with classical extension and leaflets and campaigns. No single approach can respond to the challenges, not just of COVID, but of the rapid changes we see in rural economies. The role of extension, I think, is more than ever to facilitate interactions rather than only disseminate good practices, and this has been clear during this pandemic. So again, going local, local solutions for local problems. This is more, I think, an important take-home message for a lot of us. And sometimes the youth and migrant workers have been more exposed to technology and bring that back home. So sometimes the solution comes from a different group of people, from those who were the traditional partners of agriculture and extension. So I want to thank you very much for all the amazing feedback that we've had, and the contributions from around the world on doing this material that you can find at this link at the bottom of the global platform. And feel free to drop us a message at farmerfieldschools@fao.org if you want any of this material free of charge to be printed, translated, etc. I look forward to hearing all the field experiences, and thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Anne-Sophie. Really a great intervention, really informative. Certainly safety and health of the participants, the facilitators, very much of utmost importance. It's really great, you know, FAO overall has an open access policy to its information. So it's really great that the headquarters team is making all of these resources available and willing to collaborate to translate the materials into local languages, and that, you know, of course, as FFS practitioners, providing accurate and correct information is very key to participants. We live in such a digital age where the spread of information and fake news is vast, and things can spread so fast. So it's really important that we take on that role to share this information. And of course, the shift into digitalization, we've always been talking about it, but maybe COVID-19 has been the catalyst to really force us into a realm of digitalizing extension and taking it much further. So thank you so much for that, Anne-Sophie. Next, I would really like to invite somebody who's really kind of spurred all of this this movement and fast interaction globally with FFS, Katia Marinero. She is a communications officer for FAO Angola. FAO Angola originally started this communications campaign using the posters and flyers on FFS. So Katia, why don't you go ahead
yeah, sure.
in 10 minutes to share your experience with the participants on this initiative. Over to you.
Sure. Thank you, Ori, and good morning, everyone. Greetings from Luanda, Angola. I'm happy to share with you. Just let me check if I can put this in the other view. Just a second. All right. I think that it's okay, right? So I'm happy to share with you a quick overview in the role, the information campaign that we developed in Angola against COVID-19, aim on our farmers. So the idea just starts some days before the lockdown of the country, when the crisis was over it in Europe. So the Ministry of Agriculture, through the Institute of Agrarian Development, just call FAO Angola to ask help to reach the farmers in the country, in all the remote areas, thinking that maybe they, in that time, they have no clue on the crisis. And the idea was to use our farmer field school network to reach them and to disseminate the information. And the target was to reach 1 million families. So we analyzed it quickly because we didn't have a lot of time, that we want to be very, very fast to reach that farmers. And we had two big challenges. One was that we were told that the new coronavirus could be spread in surface like paper. So how to avoid giving information to people, not to disseminating flyers and to give flyers. And the other was actually the country lockdown that was very, very strong at the beginning. How to make materials reaching all the provinces, all the remote areas, if we cannot use our cards, and if we were producing materials here in the capital, Luanda. So we came with a very simple strategy. That was to develop one page in the A4 format, a poster, very visual, with few messages. And the idea was to send it by email to the FAO coordinations in the provinces, so they could easily print it on their office printers. So we don't need to send it by car or plane to the other parts of Angola. And also we decide to use only two main messages. One was, what is the new coronavirus, the symptoms, the transmission, and the other, what we can do to prevent it. We quickly work with our colleagues at WHO here in the country office. So we aligned the messages with them. And finally, we start to translate it in the local languages. We start with 4 local languages, and then we finish having the poster original created in Portuguese in 10 local languages. And then when we send it to our FAO coordinators, we quickly also develop one-page guide with tips on how to spread information. Because we are so used to give flyers and to give the information hand by hand, that we found that it was very important to explain to the coordinators and to tell them to explain then to the master trainers and to the facilitators that they should not give the flyer. So they should use a flipboard, a flip chart, or something like holding the information, and then all the other measures that we already know, that keep at least 1 meter of distance, wash the hands, and all that tips. Then in the provinces, our FAO province coordinators organize trainings with farmer field school master trainers and the Institute of Agrarian Development staff. And the strategy was first to train the master trainers, that then will train the facilitators, and then we organize farmer field school sessions with all the farmers, always thinking in that measures, like to avoid big groups, closed rooms, and to keep all that tips in mind. Then finally, we at some provinces, our colleagues had also the opportunity to to teach and to explain how to make hand soap with oil and with caustic soda. Always remember that that's one of the most important things to prevent the COVID-19 is to wash hands with soap regularly. And then, as Anne-Sophie told, this poster is available in a lot of official languages, and is also in an open source that it could be translated in other languages. So I'm happy then to answer your questions how this campaign work on fields, and thanks for listening.
Okay, thank you so much, Katya, for your intervention. Really was quite an experience for you to work in such a rapidly evolving situation without knowing, you know, if coronavirus would be transmitted via paper or whatnot, and then facing the potential the pending lockdown in order to get these resources out as soon as possible, and then also, you know, a possible income generation activity by making the soap that could really enhance the lives of the participants. So thank you so much, really great. Okay, so with that, I would like to now turn over to country experiences on the ground in FFS directly. I'd like to invite Thomas Ameni, who is an FFS consultant for FAO Malawi. Thomas, I see you're there. You have your video on. Go ahead and within 10 minutes, if you'd like to share your experience, the floor is yours.
All right, thank you very much, Audrey, and greetings from Lilongwe in Malawi. We'll be sharing an experience from FAO Malawi on an innovative way on how we are managing to run our farmer field school activities. So I will just be sharing with you my screen in a short while. Okay, so basically the farmer field school programming in Malawi is well recognized within the National Agriculture Investment Plan. And currently, as FAO, we have a huge portfolio of up to 45 million USD with support from the European Union, Flanders, DFID, and GEF. Of course, we run this program in the very close collaboration with the Department of Agricultural Extensions, and as a network of master trainers, over 400 of them in the field, over 5,000 community-based facilitators that we work with, and over 3,000 community outreach groups spread across the entire country. If you can see that map of Malawi on your right-hand side, you can see the spatial distribution of all the farmer field schools that we have in the country. So we cover over 17 districts out of the 28 districts. Just to give you a small snapshot of the situation that we have had in the country in regards to COVID, we had the declaration state of disaster in mid-March, and we had to go through a number of adjustments within the programming that was being influenced by different guidelines that was issued against public gathering, but also with a lot of guidelines on how to prevent COVID, the spread of COVID. So some of the quick adjustments that the FFS programming had to undergo within the country included closing down of 4 farmer field school master trainers courses, which had been ongoing. But because of the limitation in the public gathering, the community-based facilitators training and the farmer field school outreach group session continued to operate, but within the adjusted, within the provision of the COVID guidelines. And to date, these activities have continued, but then the engagement is being done through what we're calling the COVID smart sessions, where there are reduced number of people. There's also a lot of remote support being provided through the social media platforms. And the FFS resource handbook on COVID-19, which had been mentioned earlier, has also been very useful to provide specific guidelines on how sessions are being handled within the FFS. Now, just to give you some quick snapshot on some of the innovative way in which the FFS have continued to get engaged. We have what we call the host group learning system, where members of the FFS have continued to meet on a reduced numbers on critical activities such as IESA, general field management activities, village savings, and FFS learning cycles. But through the network of farmer field school master trainers and the community-based facilitators, we continue to provide the backstopping e-learning. And this is also enhanced through a network of over 160 tablets that were originally provided to the MTs to enhance the M&E system. So we're using the same tools to also share and provide some remote technical training to the master trainers. The peer learning and social support has also enhanced and increased sharing of information within the FFS members. But also we have had engagement with Access Agriculture, where we have obtained hundreds of training videos, which we're currently engaging to translate them into different local languages within the country. And lastly, we have had community radios engagement to promote awareness and dissemination of key farming messages. In order to achieve those innovative adjustment for the farmer field school activities to continue, some of the quick key things that we had to do, like we mentioned earlier on, we had to close down the master trainers courses in 4 centers. But in many of those locations, we already had ongoing trials that were being undertaken. So we had to select at least 2 to 3 master trainers to support the field activities. And we continued with remote support using different platforms like WhatsApp groups, the SMSs, the voice calls, depending on the location specific opportunities and how different or the applicability of any of those platforms. We have also managed to run e-trainings, e-discussion, e-meetings through Zoom and MS Team application. And it has been very successful in many locations. The learning resources, posters, recorded videos, and audio remote shared over video is also enhancing information sharing, and to enable that, we remotely continue to reach a network of master trainers, community-based facilitators, and also the farmer field school members. In some circumstances, the FFS master trainers and the community-based facilitators have also had to support critical FFS session in person, but of course, while observing all the preventive measures against COVID-19. And we're also making provision of body protection equipment to extension workers and sanitary materials like hand washing facilities, just to ensure we enhance in the messaging on the control and prevention of the spread of COVID-19. Just quickly, we learned some few lessons that we can share with you. We noted that the ICT platform became very exciting platform for learning, both for farmers and also the network community-based facilitators. The use of illustrated posters enhanced the FFS sessions delivery by the community-based facilitators. And right now, we are developing quite a number of tailored learning posters, which are in line with the FFS resource handbooks. And this will also enable us to translate these same materials into different local languages to enhance the information sharing across the country. We have also had a new partnership emerging, like earlier on the opportunity that we had with Access Agriculture to develop these high EC materials, but also some of these opportunities include engagement with the community radios to facilitate dissemination of key agricultural messaging. The peer-to-peer information exchange have built cohesions and accelerated learning and social support for the different farming communities to cope with the possible stress. So as we mentioned earlier on, where we have reduced number of farmer field school members meeting on a rotational basis. So this information continued to get disseminated through the peer group system. And lastly, indeed, the COVID-19 pandemic has opened up opportunity for us to think outside the box, because all these innovations has been available. I mean, all these technologies and ways of doing things differently has been with us, but this has really accelerated how we have been able to think outside the box and make most of this a reality. Thank you very much, and I will be around to address any of the questions that will arise. Yeah, thank you, and over to you, Audrey.
Thank you, Thomas. Thank you so much. That was a really great presentation. Very, very interesting. Certainly the network connectivity issues has really affected a lot of our work. Whether you live in a city or you're in a rural area, we've all come to face those challenges. I really appreciated that you said, talked about the coping mechanisms between the FFS participants, and certainly we can do that ourselves as the practitioners, by checking in with our participants and checking up on each other and seeing how we're doing, to be able to share our experiences and talk about our stresses. And really, yes, this has made us think outside the box on how we can deliver, how we can continue our services to those who need it most. So thank you so much. I just want to clarify one thing that a lot of people have asked, that the presentations be shared. And of course, we are recording this session, and we will put it on the FFS Global platform. And I imagine that Zoe will distribute it through the D groups, and here in the Eastern Africa Farmer Field School platform, we will be sure to share that as well. Next, I want to invite our last speaker, Jam Mohammed Khalid. He is a participatory climate smart agriculture specialist for FAO Pakistan. Jam, I see you there. So within 10 minutes, if you would like to share your experience, I'll hand the floor to you.
Okay, you see the presentation?
Yes, go
okay.
ahead.
Great. Thank you, friends. Thank you, FFS Global family. I'm from Pakistan, and I would like to share some experiences, some ideas, especially running farm field school during the COVID-19. I would like to first share some challenges which we are facing, and we faced even, and will be facing, I think. The first one regarding the COVID-19, there was a lockdown situation in the country, and now the country is moving toward the smart lockdown phase, and which is ultimately creating a restriction in the movement, especially the facilitator. They cannot move from their duty station to the field. And there are several restrictions even from the official office, the FAO, as well as from the government. And the other challenge which we are facing, that maintaining a distancing in the gathering. When we are going to run the farm field school, so we need to have some gathering of 25 or like people. So that was a challenge with us. And the other one is that SOP is developed by the government as well as the FAO to follow, especially during the COVID situation. And the other hand, the other challenge was that there was some farm field school we were running already before the COVID situation, and they were ongoing. And also, we were planning to new farm field school and farm business school during the COVID situations. So dealing with the big group of farmer, that was also a challenge with us. So keeping in mind these all challenges, we find some opportunities, some ideas. And the first one was that we developed a strategy, farm field school COVID-19 strategy working model that is already published in the FFS handbook for the COVID-19 running farm field school, published by the Home Office. And the other idea and opportunity was that we had an innovation, especially that was a pre-COVID situation, innovation in the farm field school system. But we found it, a very workable and very promising, especially dealing with enabling the distancing during the meeting. And the third one is the use of digital media and channels. And I will explain briefly how we find these options, these opportunities and experiences workable. First, I would like to discuss our strategy. We call it the Smart FFS, that is already been discussed with our colleagues, that make the group a small, mini FFS. And we started with that. So the facilitator, they move to the field and train just 5 members. They lead up the subgroups. And once they give the session to them and then assign them these as a leader to train the other subgroups remaining in the 25 members, group of members. So this worked well, and we even tested it in the field and how it looked like that the facilitator, they move in the field and they train a few groups and then assign them to pass on the message and the the farm field school actions on the other day in the field, and they keep on communicating with their digital media. You can see the women groups, the livestock field school and the field school on food security, and as well as the field school on crops. They are practicing this. There were some challenges, but this is a dynamic process, and we are learning, and we will definitely find some better solution as well. The second option, the second innovation I would like to discuss, which is enabling this distancing issue. That is we introduced in 2019 a color-based learning model in farm field school. The challenge was the illiteracy of farmers. The farmer, they cannot read and write. So we introduced color language for the illiterate people. And the aim, the message, and the key point was that farmers, they go to field, they observe, they get data, they record information. So we claim that this colors basically aim to translate that facts into colors first, and then colors into decision. That was basically the farmer field school basically aim to enable the farmers for decision making. And this innovation we presented at different forums, and luckily we got selected among the top 20 agriculture innovations this year 2020 by the FAO. And I would like to explain how it works and how it is benefiting and supporting in the COVID situation. The simplicity in this idea is that there are only 4 colors, and every color has a fixed the universal meaning, that green color, yellow color. Green represent a progress, that something is happening, increasing or decreasing positively in the field. Basically, initially we tested it on the agro-ecosystem analysis, but now we are testing it for other parameters as well. The second color is normal, no increase, no decrease in any situation. And the red one is for alarming, that something is increased or decreased in a negative way. And the blue one is the maturity, that something is completed at a saturation stage, or at the completion stage. So these are these 4 colors. They have a predefined and a common sense with the universal meaning. How it works, in farm field school, the only tool that is for the discovery learning, which is the agro-ecosystem analysis. And without this agro-ecosystem analysis, there is no concept of farm field school. We can call it something else. So here we see that how it works. Farmers, they go to field, they get information, including the crops, including the plants and the humidity, rain, birds, weeds, soil, air, human, anything they find in the ecosystem of their crops, they record it. And then they come and sit in somewhere in the sitting place and make a big sheet like this. You see, this is a flip chart, and they convert all the information to the flip chart and then present before a big group. This was a big challenge especially during the COVID situation now. When we want to develop this chart, you need to sit together, a very close position, 5 group, group of 5 people, they have to sit together and then they can develop this chart. This will remain a big challenge until unless we have a solution for COVID-19. So how these colors works? We develop a board, a visual board basically, and for all, we have developed this agro-ecosystem visual boards for all crops and all commodities. You can see things, the basic parameters and even more parameters we normally in the previous models. So they are already there with pictures and even local language as well. So people can, they don't need to create create the new flip chart every week. They just put colors like this. The stickers we provide them and express and analyze and discuss on the parameters there, as per their observations of that day. So that innovation worked well, and we even tested in more than 300 farm field school from last 1.5 years, and it is extraordinary performing. And we have now, you know, the higher management has directed to standardize the FFS process in the country following this new model, especially in the especially the agro-ecosystem analysis one. Initially, before the COVID, you can see this is the all illiterate community, but everybody is reading and writing just following this color scheme. And this is equal for even literate and illiterate, because colors have same meaning for everyone, either illiterate or illiterate or young or old, elder. It has the same meaning for them. And we find it very time efficient as well, because the board is already developed. They have just to transform their observation to you know, the CN board. And it's more visual. It has a minimum, you know, text and numerics in it, and it creates more due to the universal meaning of the 4 colors. It promote the more discussion, and that is what we need in the farm field school. That the farmers, they sit together and they discuss with each other, share their experiences on a, you know, the greater way. That is more discussion mean the more productive the farm field school. And other one is that it's very easy when how to make go to the decisions as well. And we find these colors, the same meanings, applicable for all crops, all commodities, livestock, forestry, even health and the decent farming and the child labor issues and the you know, the wash as well. So keeping in mind this, how it is facilitating us. If we discuss the schools which we were running before the COVID situation, but after COVID we could not move to the field, then we adopted the you know, the facilitator. They engage the WhatsApp and the other telecommunication, and assign, because it is very user friendly, assign the team leader, the FFS leader, to continue their farm field school, rather they just shut down and wait for the lockdown opening. So we find that the farmers themselves, they continue their farm field school following the SOPs, and they successfully implemented the ISA. That was the base, the great achievement, and especially the hope for the a successful farm field school, especially during the COVID situation. And if we go to, if I talk about the availability of this and the, you know, the development in this process, we have developed these boards for cotton, rice, sunflower, even all crop. A universal board as well is there. We developed for orchards as well. Livestock is there. We have, you know, introduced a new food security model, that is homestead gardening, including all the food security aspects in it. And even we are at the final stage for the farm business school visual board as well. And we developed a climate smart village board following these colors. It is already with us, and we developed it already and tested in the field as well. Beside this, these boards also, but for the support of this new idea, we created 2 manuals. One is for the cotton, and the other one is for the food security model, that is the food, women open school model. So 2 manuals in English, they are available with us, and also the data books which support this new innovation. We developed for livestock field school, for crop field school, as well as for the food security women open school model. and these are available with us in Pakistan. We can even share on demand. But these data books are in our local language, that is Urdu. The third option we utilize, this is very, remain a very supporting with us. We, with the community, especially if we go to, we talk about the farmers and facilitator link. So WhatsApp played a vital role in it. And because in most of the community sites, farmers, they have access to WhatsApp. So that remain, the main channel for communication with farming community, especially when we were not able to move into the field. Other thing which I would like to share with you, that we also use this telework situation, and we conducted a 4-day workshop on Farmer Business School, 1-day workshop on the writing skill of case studies, and 2-day workshop on climate smart village through by using this Skype and Zoom. And it remained, wonderful. Even zero cost, we build the capacity of facilitators in Pakistan, just using these, the channels. As we say, that COVID is basically a problem, but it's a challenge, but it is also has many opportunities and many advantages as well. With zero cost, you can do many things. Here you can see in the picture that the facilitator just first communicate with the team lead, and then the team lead conducted the field school. This was our achievement, and most of the field school we are adopting using this one. But now after we don't have now the full lockdown, but we have a smart lockdown in some areas. So for facilitator, now they are moving and facilitating the smart group and running the field school. And other, this you can see a tool we have in Pakistan, that is the e-pharmacy school. We already had have a application which is developed last year, and we are using for data collection, basically, especially for M&E and technical support level, especially for the facilitator only. And we find it very supportive because it reduces the cost of M&E, especially at working from a distance. And now, during February, when there was a arrival of COVID in Pakistan, at that time, the Director General also visited Pakistan, and he also visited the pharmacy school, especially in a field. And when he observed this color scheme and educating farmers through colors, so he suggested, even recommended the country office and even the field team to develop an application, especially using these colors, so that any farmer at the global and anywhere, they can use it and facilitate their crop decisions. So we following his directions and keeping the need of the time, we have initiated to develop this FFS ecosystem in Pakistan. We have several another application which named as FFS Global. You can even download it now from the Play Store. It is working, but we are now improving and updating that all toward FFS ecosystem, which will have these 4 or 5 services in it. The first service that will be for Android and iOS both system. The first service that we already have, that is FFS M&E and technical support system. And the second, as per the direction of the Director General, we are developing ISA application, which will be for facilitator as well as for farmers, as well as for non-FFS farmers. So ISA application will enable farmers to observe their crops, get their data using these colors through app, and they will be able to make decision about their crops on the spot. The app will help them to, to customize the information and to consolidate the information and help them toward making decisions. And the second thing which we are developing, one component we already, as I discussed, we have a dashboard already, but we are creating a more interactive dashboard, web-based dashboard. We named a web-based dashboard that will help the managers, the organizers, the facilitators to monitor and to to observe their farm office school progress. And the third one is the FFS Knowledge Bank. The Knowledge Bank will help, we already have created it, but we are improving it. That will help. We are compiling all the knowledge, the manuals, the books, the posters, the brochures developed regarding the farm office school approach globally. We'll compile it and upload on that. That will be a knowledge source for everyone. And the fourth one, we are enabling the social networking resources in that ecosystem and application as well. We already created a chat box in it, but we are improving it by following the WhatsApp and the Zoom and other Skype options. We are integrating that one, and we are creating a new one that is, we are aiming to make it as a, name it as a Facebox. So it will help the inter-organization and intra-organization communication among the farmers, FFS practitioners, those who will be using this EFFS ecosystem on application as well as on website. So this is our next move, and we have developed the concept note, and we have even sent for approval of the assignment. We are engaging in a university which is very good in developing the IT tools. So hope they will be creating it, will create it in soon. But if we talk about way forward, that the global guide, which is resource book for COVID-19, you guys published from Rome office, we are going to adopt it on a broader way because it has very good information, very interactive learning chapters, and the exercises. So they need to be practiced in the field. We are practicing it, but on a standardized manners, we are going to adopt it. And another level, we are going also, planning these options for farmer business school. We have some targets under the running for a project, establishing farmer business school. So we are looking for it as well. Locust, it's creating a problem all over the world, especially in the Africa and Pakistan, India. So following these colors and following the COVID situation, we are developing the tool, the visual board for locust learning. Either that board will be used in the farm office school, or even non-farm office school community will be able to use that under the supervision of the extension, agriculture extension people. So we are developing this locust learning board as well. The fourth one is the manuals, the knowledge about using these, 4 colors, as well as the ISA models, the new ISA models. So developing the manuals. We developed, as I mentioned, 2 manuals, but we are working on 6 other, which will be, and after 1 month or 2 months, we will be able to have a full set of guide manuals for all type of crops and commodities we are considering in farm office school across the globe. These are in English and in a very, not specific, but in a general options, and that will be usable for everywhere in the global platform. So I think our contribution will also be helpful for the rest of the global communities. And we also thank you for the presentation before you guys presented. They're very helpful, and we will love to, customize these ideas in our learning process as well, because we believe that we are the global farm office school family, and we would love to share our experiences as well. Thank you all.
Thank you so much, Jam, for your intervention. Really quite interesting of what's going on in Pakistan with continuing farmer field schools in the midst of such challenges. Certainly, Pakistan has been a leader, in my opinion, of digitalizing FFS, and you really show that through your examples. It's really been quite inspiring to see that. And then, of course, you mentioned the problems with the locust. I asked you about that yesterday in our meeting, and that would be great to have an opportunity to collaborate in the future between the Horn of Africa and throughout Pakistan and in India and throughout the Middle East on how we can work with farmers in the midst of the locust infestations. And of course, the 4 colors for learning, Jom's 4 colors. So I wonder, are you going to patent that idea since that's yours? But that's great. Thank you so much. So I'd like to shift focus now. We're going to go into the Q&A session. I'd like to also invite another speaker, Baha Nguma. He is a farmer field school master trainer based in Kenya, out on the coast. And before we begin the Q&A session, I would like to just provide just a quick few words. We have a very vibrant WhatsApp group for farmer field schools. And we certainly are very keen on adding more members. We have additional members from Haiti and Japan and from all over. So if you are interested, you could send Edwin a message to join, but it's also a call to other regions to create their own sort of vibrant community if they don't have that yet, to capitalize on this time that we have to really shift into digitalization for farmer field schools, that we can continue these activities. We are constantly talking about ideas on the WhatsApp group, so it's really great to open your screen and you see 10 messages from people talking about different issues. As well, we have the D group that's global. So if you're not part of that, you could send Zoe a message with your email address and request to be added to that group. So I've seen some questions. First, I see some hands going up as well. Let me go to some of the questions that I've written down first. The first one is, we can pick to one of our speakers. I think I can ask Thomas this, since he has the experience in the field. Thomas, as a result of COVID-19, does FFS have plans using both methodologies of working in the field, such as physically as well as digitally, such as training farmers on how to use the digital tools? So that's something we've certainly seen, is that sometimes there's a gap, a digital divide, that we need to train farmers. So Thomas, could you maybe provide your input on what you've done in Malawi on how to train the farmers on using these digital technologies?
Okay, yeah, thank you, Audrey, and also thank you for that excellent question. Well, I mean, if you look at the dissemination, first of all, the technology itself, and then also the material that is supposed to be disseminated. Currently, most of the farmers have mobile phones, and also the network of community-based facilitators have also got smartphones. So already the use of this, the utilization of the smartphone for the usual phone calls and sharing of information without even bringing in the learning component is already in place. So the ideal situation here is that you just want to utilize already the existing platforms that already exist. So it's basically, you know, reactivating the call centers, you know, packaging the information, and then using the same existing tools to be able to pass the information. However, for the high level, I mentioned earlier that currently we have over 160 tablets. These tablets were provided to enhance the M&E system, because we do not longer use the pen and paper mechanism. We have the tools developed on Cobalt deployed on these tablets. And therefore, any support training or meetings, these meetings are held through those available platforms. And of course, there are some remote support that are provided, but the whole idea is that the utilization of these tools currently, most of the people who use or a smartphone, at least they know how to maneuver through. So the only ideal thing is to make sure that the platform that you choose to use are easy to adopt and people can quickly. Of course, I know that the utilization of the smartphones at the farmers level may still be limited, and there are several factors, could be network and so on. And that is why using the network of people, communication are passed through the community-based facilitators from the master trainers, and then to the farmers. It enhances this dissemination, but it cannot be from the promoter directly to the farmers. We have to utilize this network of master trainers and then community-based facilitators so that it can be filtered. Like if you have this IEC material, the videos we're talking about, these videos can be watched through a small smartphone. So the packaging of the video need to really be made in a very light tool, so that it can be shared across different platforms. So I thought that what I can respond in regards to the mechanism and how we manage to make sure that we utilize the existing IEC networks available. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Thomas. We received another question that I'd like to ask Baha. Ilaria Sisto asks, I would like to ask the different speakers to share information on how they can tackle gender issues in response to COVID-19. Baha, are you there? You're muted. There you
yes,
go.
please, Ori. I can hear you.
Yes, did you hear that? So Ilaria asked how we can tackle gender issues in response to COVID-19.
How we can tackle gender issues in response to COVID-19. First of all is to appreciate out of the population, who are the most susceptible, who are the most vulnerable according to the health statistics. That is very critical information for practitioners to be able to know. We are told that the elderly are quite affected in this, but this is information that all facilitators must be able to have it in a manner that we make our farmer field schools aware of who amongst the participating members are likely to be vulnerable in terms of the youth, the middle-aged, and the elderly. That's one aspect. And therefore, it means that when we have perhaps a greater group of members who are quite elderly, then we have to be able to deal them quite differently in regards to their disposition to the disease. By and large, we have to be alive to the fact that the precautionary measures that are already put in place and the guidelines that have been floated by both the Ministries of Health and FAO must be adhered to. The other thing that we have to look into is what is the composition of our current field school groups in terms of, are they youth, or are they likely women, or are they a mix of them, so that we can be able to know if we are dealing with a homogeneous group, then the approach will be a little bit different in the sense that we may want to say in terms of shaping the information so that it can be easily accommodated. It will depend on the age groups. And therefore, I will want to imagine that in terms of a group where we have largely youth, the use of digital social media can be much more enhanced compared to groups where we have a mix of elderly men and women. So that is very critical in terms of looking at the aspects of information sharing based on gender. One, literacy level is also a critical issue that we have to look at. I have seen that presentations have been made here for visual to enhance learning, to enhance knowledge information about COVID. That therefore means that in groups where we have mostly elderly men and women, we may want to go into the use of visual aids much more than we have for the youth. So that's how we would learn to look at it.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Baha, for that response. The next question, I would like to turn to Anne-Sophie as the spokesperson, as the global lead for farmer field schools. Wahid asks, do we foresee the use of digital tools added in future projects as a sort of norm for interventions among global farmer field schools? So do we expect to use this as a policy, to use digital tools in farmer field schools?
Yes, thanks Wahid, Sajida, and others for asking this question. That's very relevant. And we've been actively working as Global FFS platform with AFAS and other partners, the FAO Investment Center and others, on developing e-learning courses for farmer field schools. If Ori allows me to share my screen, maybe I could even give you a little preview. We are planning on giving a little bit of webinar soon to introduce you to that and get feedback from the global FFS community on this course. I'll just show you a few of the slides. So it will be an interactive course with quizzes and videos and etc. with various levels for project managers to experienced field staff, to NGOs, to facilitators. So various kind of learning modes and objectives and etc. So I think we'll share more on this very soon. Also, we're working on the digitalization of monitoring and evaluation and learning. So we're working on, based on the work that Jam and colleagues have done in Pakistan on the e-learning apps. We had a workshop last December with many of the partners of the Global FFS platform on digitalization of farmer field schools. So where do we find common ground in how do we maintain the learning and people-centeredness and interactivity that is the hallmark of field schools, while at the same time using to the full the digital technologies. So we already have a lot of partnerships with video platforms like Access Agriculture, Digital Green, on developing videos and showcasing videos in villages at very low cost with mini projectors in conjunction with the field schools. We have partnerships with the Dimitra clubs on using participatory radio, and with many field schools program also have rural radio partnerships. Thus we can share, we're happy to share also in the chat and in later emails the workshop report on ICTs and FFS. We'll develop a strategy and set of tools from apps or let's say forms for M&E, which many countries are struggling with, but we need to digitalize M&E of field schools to avoid the paperwork and go real time. We are also developing a partnership with the TikTok video app to do interactive and short videos on how great farmers can do in the field and attracting youth to agriculture. So there's lots of things in the plan, and we're always inspired by field innovations from many colleagues from Malawi to Pakistan to Senegal who are using apps. And so keep sharing your thoughts about what you need in terms of digitalization. We'll be running also trainings of master trainers this year, remotely most likely, but also physically in some countries, on how to use ICTs. How can you use ICTs in training of facilitators? How can you use ICTs in field schools themselves? So looking forward to all of your suggestions about what field teams need most, and we'll take that on board. Thanks.
Thanks, Anne-Sophie. I actually want to stay with you for the next question. How can EFFS be linked with FAMUs, with the monitoring app for fall armyworm? You have quite a background with fall armyworm as well. How can we link those two together?
Yes, so the FAMUs is an app for the monitoring and early warning of the fall armyworm, which is a pest a lot of crops, but especially maize that has been damaging crops in many of your countries. So FAO has developed this app for monitoring and early warning, which works very well in the field. And in many places, this is connected with the farmer field schools, because we promote that field schools are a good place both to install traps for the monitoring of the fall armyworm and other pests, and that the field schools group is a good place to do scouting through the app and submit real-time data on the issues in their fields. So of course, we're looking at every app as their own, let's say, software and background systems, but we're very much looking at integrating these things into a set of packages or a suite of tools that field workers can use. Yes.
Great. Thanks so much, Anne-Sophie. The next question is going to Jam.
Yeah.
I believe we're seeing the screen of somebody. If you're sharing your screen, thank you. Okay, Jam. The question is very relevant. It comes from my colleague Aresaum in the FAO Ethiopia office. He says, considering the nature of the pest, to what extent do you think it is practical to establish and run desert locust farmer field schools?
Yes, thank you. Aisam is basically my friend. We work together in Bangkok. Thank you, Aisam. Regarding the locust, we discussed with the. You getting my video? Okay, let me. Okay. We discussed with the experts of the locust at the national level and translate our, the idea into our new ISA model. So we get to a to get the idea that this is very relevant. We can do it, and we can consider not only the the locust stages, locust reproductive phase, or the pest stage, but also its controlling agent, the overall biofauna connected with it, either it required for its consumption, or either the pest predators are the predator or parasite of this. So we are also considering all these in this new model, as well as the climatic conditions, as well as the sites and the habitats where it normally the breed. And because the locusts basically breed on different sites and attack on the different areas, and normally the breeding sites they don't belong to the farming community, they belong to the range management and the forest areas and desert areas. So we are looking, we are designing for these both communities, so that we can educate both and to facilitate the better management of the locusts. So soon we'll share the this visual board with all, and hope we'll get response and review and input from everyone. So in brief, we are considering all ecosystem, all parameters in the visual board, especially for the sake of education of educating people, so that they can understand, they can play their role in a proper time. So once we complete it, then we will share, then we will discuss.
Okay, great. Thank you, Jam. I see that there have been a lot of comments about asking to share materials, whatnot. I would suggest, if you are looking forward, if you want to transmit information, one of the best ways to get that out globally is to send to the Farmer Field School platform in Rome, the global platform. Yeah. That's through the D group. You can always message Zoe or even Anne-Sophie, and they have the means necessary to share that information. So to our speakers today, if you have any sort of those additional materials, if you'd be willing to please share along.
One thing I want to add, Ore.
Go ahead.
Yes, the global platform, FFS global platform team is continuously in our communication with us. Like Suzanne and Zoe and Sophie, we are in communication from a long time. on these matters as well. So definitely we'll share all material, the developed material which is ready to share with them, especially the ISA boards, they are available, and the others manual as well. So I will share with them, and they will definitely circulate to the rest of the communities as well. The other thing I would like to add, there was a huge community from Pakistan today willing to join it, because the FAO circulated message, not even FAO staff, but also to the partners and NGOs as well in our country. So now she has raised a question, raised an email to the deputy director, I think, deputy director general, to support in this, so that we should repeat this seminar, Zoomina again, and to give an opportunity to everyone who could not join us today. So
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So this is my message on behalf of the FAO. Yeah.
Okay, great. Thanks, Jam. Okay, so I'll leave it with one last question or comment. I see that Dr. Sindhu, are you there? Are you still available?
Yeah, I'm there.
Dr. Sindhu, yes, sir.
Yes, please. You have a question or comment. Go ahead. The floor is yours.
Okay, sir. I will share.
Sindhu, share. What's your question?
Sir, I have no question.
Okay. Sindhu, you were in the training workshop. You got good training on it, on these colors. I think she has no question. Yeah.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I was there, and Sir Jam Khalid, you are trained me in FFS and about livestock. So now I am on teleworking, and I learned a lot from this presentation.
Okay, thank you. If you don't have any question, so you can proceed.
Yes, sir. Yes, of course.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much for your comment, Dr. Sindhu. So we've gone for an hour and 30 minutes. We've had wonderful presentations and quite a lively discussion. We've tried to address as many questions as we can that are thematically related. If we have missed any, I'll be sure to forward them to the global platform, and perhaps we can get some responses collated and sent out in the D group again. I do want to, there are two closing things that I would like to share with you. First, we've had internal discussions as this webinar has occurred, and we really did not foresee that there was a ceiling to the number of participants. So we really found that unfortunate, and we apologize for that. But the good news is we intend to replicate the exact same webinar within a week or so. So those, if you have colleagues or friends who are saying that they were not able to join, please let them know that we are working. We're going to try our best. I think we will upgrade our license, the ceiling, so that we can have more participants for the replicated webinar that is coming up in the very near future. So I want to make sure that you are all very much aware of that. Lastly, we have a tradition with the Eastern Africa Farmer Field School Hub platform in the weekly webinars that we turn on our videos and we take a group photo together. So Edwin or Andre, I'll leave it to you guys that we can all take this together. It looks great. People from all over the world, all in one virtual room together.
We are waiting for everybody to put on their video. Video for a minute. Video for a minute. So
as maybe Edwin, we go to that. We like to send our very sincere thanks to FAO HQ, Sophie and team, Ori from Addis for the facilitation. And as Ori already mentioned, we shall replicate this webinar, and we look forward to some of you rejoining. But also, we are open to any experiences. If you have something like if you have something that you would like to share, please get in touch with me or Edwin. We shall get in touch with you so that you can share in the subsequent webinars. Otherwise, nashukuru sana, well done, and we keep in touch.
Muchas gracias.
Wow, it was supposed to be the video. The others are still not putting in the video. I'm having 4 screens, so please don't exit. We are taking a picture for each.
Please turn on your videos, everyone.
Turn on your videos.
Hi, our video has been stopped by the host. Could the host turn it on?
Oh, sorry, Henry. Good to be counted. Wow, great people. So thank you, AFAS, Global Field School Community, Field School Hub. We need to do this again and again. I'm doing mine, right? but Andre is also doing another one.
We were trying to get in touch with Andre to turn all the pictures on.
I've done the page by page, but I'm waiting for Andre to do the big one on the admin.
My video is muted.
Done. It's done.
Done. It's done.
Great.
So expect the recording. We'll upload it.
Okay.
And we will share all the documents. I believe we have the approval of all the presenters to share the documents in PDF.
Bye-bye.
All right. Thank you, everybody. Wishing you a pleasant day or evening wherever you are.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mzee Masai.
Nakuona mzee Baha. Nakuona.
Uko wapi lakini? Nakuona uko kwa gari bwana.
Thank you very much. Lunga mzee.
Thank you everyone.
Asante.
Sawa sawa. Tutaongea mimi niko.
Haya.
Okay, bye bye.
Bye.
Okay, I'm trying to finish. Hi, Shadrick. Morning.
Kugira abantu bane bari bageze ngo